Today, I'm going to explore the topic that you see right up here about why data science needs feminism. And this is the subject of the book that you can see in the little image on the right. And I just want to acknowledge that this is actually co-authored work with Catherine D'Ignazio, who works in urban science at MIT. So to jump right in, the motivating premise of our book is that in the world today, data is a tremendous form of power. So you could think of data-driven systems that have been used at companies like Amazon for screening job resumes, where they've been found to discriminate against women applicants. They've also been used to flag parents who are suspected of child abuse, very often unfairly and with truly devastating consequences. I mean, the reality is I could fill a talk with these examples, but the main point is this. Data are incredibly powerful, but that power is currently wielded unequally. And more specifically, it's wielded by a small and homogeneous group of corporations. They're the ones who have the resources to design and deploy these data systems for their own profit and at the expense of everyone else. So this is actually where feminism enters in. And what we explain in the book is how feminism, and intersectional feminism in particular, has been focused on precisely this, on imbalances of power and the structural forces that cause them for a very long time. So you might already be familiar with this idea of intersectional feminism. This comes to us from the work of women of color feminists and Black feminists in particular. And what we gain from concepts like the Kankakee River Collective's formulation of, quote, interlocking systems of oppression, or Kimberly Crenshaw's term intersectionality, these give us frameworks that can structure our critiques of power. So the reasons why certain groups might experience oppression on the one hand or privilege on the other. And the intersection in intersectionality comes from this view that it's not possible to isolate certain forces of privilege or oppression from others. So while we might be interested in the effects of sexism, for example, we must also recognize that other forces like racism, classism, colonialism, and so on interlock and intersect with each other in ways that are impossible to separate. And so in the book, we present these 7 principles that show how intersectional feminism, when applied to the unequal balance of power in data science, can help that power be challenged, rebalanced, and changed. So examine power, challenge power, rethink binaries and hierarchies, elevate emotion and embodiment, embrace pluralism, consider context, and make labor visible. And now I'm just going to show a couple of quick examples of what I mean. So examining power with data science can look like this. This is the Library of Missing Data Sets by the artist and educator Mimi Onuoha. So missing data sets is this term that Onuoha uses to describe data sets that a reasonable person might expect to exist because they address issues of pressing social need, but they don't actually exist in real life. And the point here is that these data sets, they're missing for a reason. And the reason is this profound imbalance of power with respect to data collection in the world today. So this imbalance of power is what determines which data are collected and which are not, and therefore what research is conducted and which is not. So governments have this power, moneyed institutions have this power. Generally speaking, minoritized groups do not. So the lessons of feminist thinking carry forward from issues of power and people to more conceptual structures of power, including the reasons why we value certain forms of knowledge, like what we can learn from a bar chart, and why we discount others, like the knowledge that we gain from our bodies and our emotions. And so what you're looking at here are actually screenshots of an animated visualization. It's the number of gun-related deaths in the United States in this case, 2018. Methodologically, it's super statistically rigorous, but because it appeals to our emotions, this particular visualization made the Viz community react to it with intense suspicion. But a feminist approach here would say, that's not a problem at all. And actually, it's a more compelling and effective visualization because it rejects this false binary of reason over emotion. So this brings me to the final point that I want to make, which may already be obvious from these examples, but it's that data feminism insists on an expanded definition of data science. Our data science isn't defined by the size of the data set or the technical credentials of the people undertaking the work, because these concerns honestly are used to exclude a lot of people from data science. But if we expand our definition of data science, then we can see that some of the most exciting work in the world today is sure enough being undertaken by artists, by journalists, by community organizers and activists. And I'll end up right there and say, if you are interested in more examples of this kind of work, you can check out our book. You can find me online. And thank you so much for listening.